Welcome to my series of basketball videos where I'll be comparing various NBA greats against each other. I'm doing this because I find that a lot of the basketball videos comparing players on YouTube are too focused on the big names and sometimes compare players from different positions. Lots of people compare Jordan to LeBron and Kobe to Duncan, for example, due to their similar levels of achievements, but since those players play different positions and have different styles of play, it's not an interesting comparison. In this series, I want to do comparisons between not just more well-known players, but players from days past, in the 1960s, 1970s, 1980s, and the ABA as well, that most modern fans probably do not have too much knowledge about. Also, as much as possible, I want to compare players that play similar positions and/or similar playstyles. To me, that's a more interesting and fruitful comparison. I'll be using 8 different metrics to judge each player. Scoring. This category will be defined by each player's career points per game, peak points per game, both regular season and playoffs, and number of scoring titles. Rebounding. This category will be defined by each player's career rebounds per game, peak rebounds per game, both regular season and playoffs, and number of rebounding titles. Passing. This category will be defined by each player's career assists per game, peak assists per game, both in regular season and playoffs, and number of assist titles. Efficiency advanced metrics. This category will be defined by each player's career true shooting percentage, PER, and win shares per 48. Reason I use true shooting percentage is because it's more fair to guards. Defense. This category will be defined by each player's all defensive selections, defensive win shares, and defensive player of the year awards. The reason I'm not using blocks, steals, or defensive box plus minus is because I want to compare the achievements of older players that modern fans might not have too much knowledge about, and players in the 1960s and early 1970s do not have these stats tracked. Awards. This category will be defined by all-star appearances, all-NBA selections, MVPs, finals MVPs, and championships as a top 3 player. The reason I have to count championships as a top 3 player on the team is because otherwise you'll get into the situation where, for example, Robert Horry has 7 rings and Karl Malone has 0, and it's not representative of how much better a player is if you weren't a top 3 player on that team contributing to a championship. Also, I'll be including ABA stats and awards and using them equivalent to their respective NBA stats and awards. Also, no All-NBA third team selections are included because All-NBA third teams weren't added until the late 1980s, which is unfair to older players. Playoffs. This category will be defined by how many Eastern Conference Finals or Western Conference Finals and Finals a player has been to, and how many championships they won as a top 3 player on the team. Yes, this is supplementary to the awards category because it also rewards players for making it far in the playoffs, even if they don't necessarily win at all. Totals. This category will be defined by longevity, how many total points, rebounds, assists, and win shares a player has accumulated throughout their career, and rewards a player's durability. After all, a lot of people say the best ability is availability. And of course, this is only going to be my opinion from comparing the available metrics, since I've not watched most of these players live or even been born when some of these players have been playing. And to keep it fair, I'm judging them based on how they did in their own era. There's no comparing what this NBA player played in today's era or the 1960s, none of that. It'll be strictly based on their stats and accomplishments within their own era against that era's competition, which makes the most sense to me. So I hope you guys enjoy this comparison video and hopefully learn something new from it. The 27th episode in the series features 2 of the most prolific scorers in NBA history, 2 all-time shooting guards that are associated with iconic franchises. Allen Iverson is often considered pound for pound one of the greatest players ever, an incredibly quick, athletic, dynamic scorer with incredible handles. Standing at only 5'11", he is an icon of the Philadelphia 76ers, bringing them to their only NBA Finals appearance in the last 30 years. George Gervin was also a prolific scorer. Coming off the ABA, he needed no adjustment for the NBA, scoring with ease and finesse for the San Antonio Spurs with his iconic finger roll shot. Which player was greater all time? The answer or the Iceman? Let's find out. In the scoring category, this is what both of these players were known for, was their prolific scoring prowess. Both have 4 scoring titles each, and both have similar career averages and peaks. Iverson averaged 26.7 points per game for his career, peaking at 33 points per game in 2006, and 29.7 points per game in the playoffs, peaking at 32.9 points per game in 2001. Note that Iverson has the second highest playoff scoring average of all time, behind only Michael Jordan. Gervin averaged 25.1 points per game for his career, peaking at 33.1 points per game in 1980, and 26.5 points per game in the playoffs, peaking at 34 points per game in 1975. I think this category is a very tough one to call because both players were among the best scorers in NBA history but did it in different ways. Iverson was more of an athletic slasher who would break down his defenders with a crossover than go in with a floater or a layup, whereas Gervin was kind of like the precursor to Kevin Durant, using his lengthy body to deliver in a range of mid-range jumpers or going in with his patented finger roll. For this category, I say it's too close to call, and I'll have to call it a tie. In the rebounding category, it's not that close, as Iverson was a lot shorter than Gervin was, and thus despite his athleticism, just cannot compete in this category. Iverson averaged 3.7 rebounds per game for his career, peaking at 4.9 a game in 1999, and 3.8 rebounds per game in the playoffs, peaking at 4.7 boards per game in 2001. Gervin averaged 5.3 rebounds per game for his career, peaking at 8.4 per game in 1974, and 6.9 rebounds per game in the playoffs, peaking at a center-like 14 rebounds per game in 1975. Gervin was just a better rebounder here, and it's not really that close, so I have to give it to him. In the passing category, it's the reverse of the rebounding category, as Iverson was a much better passer than Gervin was, playing part of his career as a point guard. Iverson averaged 6.2 assists per game for his career, peaking at 7.9 per game in 2005, and 6 assists per game in the playoffs, peaking at 10 assists per game in 2005, which rivals some of the best PG assist numbers we've seen in history. Gervin averaged only 2.6 assists per game for his career, peaking at 3.7 per game in 1978, and 2.9 per game for the playoffs, peaking at 4.6 per game in 1982. It's just no comparison here, as Iverson was a combo point guard and shooting guard, pulling double duty as a playmaker and scorer for his team, while Gervin, although primarily shooting guard, also played the small forward wing position sometimes as well, and thus wasn't expected to be the playmaker as much. So this category easily goes to Iverson. In the efficiency and advanced metrics category, it's not very close either. While Iverson was a great scorer, he was not known for being very efficient. Gervin, however, was a great scorer and also very efficient at doing it, easily beating Iverson in all 3 advanced metrics, so this one will easily go to Gervin. In the defense category, neither player was known as a particularly good defender, but Iverson does have 3 steals titles and more defensive win shares, so I'll give this category to Iverson. In the awards category, while neither player has won any championships, both players have a lot of All-Star appearances and All-NBA selections. Although Iverson has an MVP, Gervin has 3 more All-NBA first and second team selections, so I have to say that it's very close, so I'll have to give this category a tie. In the playoffs category, neither player won a championship, but Iverson did lead his team to the finals in 2001. However, other than 2001, Iverson has never gotten past the second round in any other season, which hurts his case here. Gervin never reached a finals, but did reach 3 conference finals. In the end, I'll also have to call this category a tie. Do 3 conference finals equals 1 finals appearance? I'm not sure, but I guess I'm implying that here. In the longevity category, it's pretty close, as Iverson and Gervin's total assists and rebounds I reversed. Gervin has slightly more points though, accounting for his ABA totals and more win shares as well. I'll have to give this one to Gervin by a slight margin. So when all the categories are summed up, Iverson takes the passing and defense categories, while Gervin takes the rebounding, efficiency, and totals categories, with the rest a tie, giving the Iceman the win. Both players are known as iconic franchise players, although neither won a championship. Both are beloved by their respective cities. George Gervin was a scoring machine back in the 1970s and 1980s with the Spurs, but his teams were just never good enough to beat the stacked 76ers and Lakers teams back then. He will remain as one of the greatest players to have never played in the NBA Finals. Allen Iverson was a very influential player and one of the greatest scorers ever for his size. He could be considered the evolution of Tiny Archibald when it comes to handles, quickness, and being both the primary playmaker and scorer for his team. He remains a 76ers icon and one of their greatest players. I hope you guys enjoyed this comparison. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe and stay tuned for the next comparison video.